Subscribe to the MTL World at Malworld 1 YouTube channel. Novel, Night Without Borders. Chapter 96, Desire to Go Beyond the Mortal Realm. Author, Chen Dong. Translator, Shadow Knight AK. Editor, Shadow Knight AK. If the Mountain Lord dies in battle, we'll go our separate ways. Wait a minute, the golden armored guard's head has already been severed. Talking Sparrow's eyes widened. It exclaimed excitedly, the Mountain Lord's glory has illuminated the desert today. That was a sage-slaying strike. Crimson Eagle couldn't speak, or it would have retorted, what are you shouting about? You were about to run away just moments ago. Qin Ming's mouth was filled with bloody froth, his internal organs burned with agony, and his hands were swollen like bear paws, crisscrossed with tearing wounds that nearly exposed the bone. Despite his battered state, he felt a profound sense of satisfaction. He forced himself to sit up, wiping the blood from his lips. Crimson Eagle, take me away. He knew he couldn't delay. If more pursuers arrived, he would surely meet his end here. The Beyond the Mortal Realm. Some old acquaintances. All remember this debt. Qin Ming staggered to his feet, his gait unsteady as his bloodied soles likely had bone-deep injuries. Mountain Lord, truly worthy of divine being. Talking Sparrow rushed over, its flattery genuine this time, genuinely awestruck. It knew Qin Ming's origins well. Just 2 or 3 months ago, he had undergone his first awakening and was struggling to survive in the Great Mountain. Now, this youth had actually slain an outer sage. Even if it was a newly ascended sage with shallow foundations, the kill was undeniable, a concrete achievement that no one could erase. Talking Sparrow was genuinely amazed and filled with admiration. Qin Ming, ever frugal and simple, quickly searched the golden armored guard's body, taking some day gold. He collapsed weakly onto the Crimson Eagle's back as it soared into the night sky. Covered in blood and utterly exhausted, he lacked the strength to even stand against the wind. Qin Ming activated the awakening technique from the Silk Book, replenishing his qi and spiritual energy. Although his body still throbbed with pain, his strength rapidly returned, and the heavenly light force began to flow once more. Fly along the desert's edge and get back to Kaisha City as quickly as possible. He directed the Crimson Eagle. The talking sparrow landed on the Crimson Eagle's back, right beside Qin Ming. Aren't you going back to Black and White Mountain? Qin Ming asked, expressing his gratitude. Earlier, the sparrow had perfectly mimicked his voice, proving an invaluable ally. The talking sparrow's eyes, like black gemstones, replied, I won't rest until I see you safely back in Kaisha City. I owe you both a great debt, Qin Ming said to the sparrow and the eagle. I'll repay you by helping you find spiritual substance. Beneath the dark night sky, the Crimson Eagle pierced through clouds and mist. The journey passed without incident, no pursuers appeared. In the eyes of certain old friends, Qin Ming had only recently embarked on the path of awakening, and his strength was still limited. He didn't even qualify to be a golden armored guard and could be easily eliminated. To them, sending an outsider and an outer sage to deal with him was like using a sledgehammer to crack a nut. Under the night's veil, Kaisha City shimmered faintly. Qin Ming sighed in relief. He was finally back. In the city lord's mansion, Meng Xinghai frowned as he examined Qin Ming, who was covered in blood. You're seriously injured? He asked. I was hunted down and barely made it back, Qin Ming replied. Unsure whether killing an outsider and an outer sage would cause trouble, he had come straight here. Did you encounter powerful golden thieves? Meng Xinghai asked. Qin Ming shook his head. The aging golden thieves were nothing. I cut down many along the way. This time, I was mainly targeted by outsider disciples. Meng Xinghai ordered his men to clean Qin Ming's wounds and apply medicine. It's good that you're alive. Don't worry. Kaisha City isn't a place for those youngsters to run wild. He asked Qin Ming how he had shaken off his pursuers. I couldn't shake them off. So I killed them all. What level were they at? Meng Xinghai inquired. Qin Ming replied, a black-clad girl, probably late-stage heart purification realm. And an outer sage. At first, Meng Xinghai nodded, unsurprised. After all, Qin Ming was, somewhat, stronger than even the youthful prodigy, extraordinary individuals. But then he heard the second half of the sentence, an outer sage. Meng Xinghai stood up abruptly, his emotions visibly surging. Qin Ming knew that such a dazzling achievement could also bring trouble. He explained, I narrowly escaped death by using the heavenly flying hammer to take most of his life force. Meng Xinghai personally examined him. Your physical body nearly collapsed, and your bones are slightly damaged. I'll prescribe a spiritual medicine for you. Acting with decisive efficiency, he immediately ordered servants to retrieve various precious medicinal ingredients from the storeroom. Qin Ming overheard the list and was startled to hear, dragon blood, among the ingredients. It wouldn't be good if you damage your vital qi, Meng Xinghai said. This rare great medicine will ensure you recover quickly. Thank you, Uncle Meng. Qin Ming rose to bow. Meng Xinghai nodded. Take rest and recover these next few days. The spiritual substance and secret manual I've prepared for you will arrive soon. Use them to enhance your strength. After nearly being assassinated in the desert by men sent by some old friends, Qinming had returned with an unwavering determination to master extraordinary techniques, achieve awakening, and grow stronger. His current excitement was natural. The rare great medicine took effect almost immediately. A bloody mist steamed from Qinming's body as his wounds, already partially healed, began to close rapidly. Even minor injuries shed their scabs and returned to pristine condition. Meng Xinghai marveled, "Your vitality is astonishing. You'll be fully recovered in a day or two." Qinming felt his essence, qi, in spirit growing stronger with each passing moment, soon to return to peak vigor. Finally, Meng Xinghai mentioned that the outsider disciples were competing for a legendary artifact. Qinming had heard rumors about this legendary treasure before, but he never imagined he would have the chance to play a role in obtaining it. "I'm willing to go." He nodded, genuinely pleased that Li Qingyu might acquire something that could elevate her to near immortal status. If Qinming had the power to intervene, he would ensure that Li Qingshu, Zheng Mao's, Zheng Yuan, and the others never achieved their ambitions. Leaving aside past grievances, the fact that he had been hunted down and barely survived this recent ordeal demanded retribution. He also sensed the immense pressure. These opponents were undoubtedly at extremely high cultivation realms. Meng Xinghai chuckled. "Don't worry. You'll be clad in golden armor, and Qingyu will protect you." Qinming felt a little embarrassed. How could he, a man who had slain an outer sage, be reduced to needing a girl's protection? "Uncle Meng, I'm heading back now." He didn't even want to sleep. He was itching to spend the night cultivating. As Qinming turned to leave, he noticed the living room felt unusually empty, missing some of its bronze artifacts. He couldn't help but ask, "Uncle Meng, where did your chime bells go? An old friend of mine lives deep in the mountains and has been feeling lonely. I lent him the bells to keep him company." During his time at Black and White Mountain, Qinming had heard the bells ringing wildly and seen purple mist soaring from the peaks. Could those have been these very bells? What about the golden thieves? He asked quietly. They've all been dealt with. Qinming returned to his lodgings and immediately began studying the Lihuo classic, Lihuo Jing, late into the night. However, drowsiness soon overwhelmed him, forcing him to succumb to sleep. The day had been grueling, filled with relentless battles, constant travel, and severe injuries. Even a body forged of iron couldn't endure such strain without rest. In his dreams, he felt himself once again donning the golden jade robe. A warm, invigorating energy surged through his body, vitalizing every cell. Golden needles stitched his wounds, while silver light, like medicinal clay, coated his skin. This healing effect far surpassed the restorative medicine Meng Xinghai had prescribed. The next morning, Qinming awoke with his vitality and spirit exceptionally vibrant, even more so than before. He discovered that all the blood scabs on his wounds had fallen off, leaving no scars behind. Yesterday, he had been drenched in blood from head to toe in the desert, writhing in unbearable pain. Now, his injuries were completely healed, and he was fully recovered. The Lihuo classic truly lives up to its reputation as an extraordinary technique, Qinming sighed. It's incredibly difficult to master. The secret manual Ning Siqi had given him was profoundly complex. This wasn't just a single secret technique, it encompassed heavenly light force, movement techniques, defense, and the sublimation of consciousness force, a comprehensive system worthy of an awakener dedicating their entire life to its study. This wasn't the original text left by the founder of the classic, but a handwritten copy from a decade or 2 decades ago, yet it still retained traces of emotion. After establishing a spiritual resonance, Qinming discovered that most of these emotions were negative, the anger and helplessness of those who had failed to cultivate the technique. He confirmed one thing: the scripture itself was flawless. This was a copy personally transcribed by one of the practitioners, meticulously compared against the original text. Qinming studied the scripture carefully and concluded that the best place to cultivate this technique was near a source of fire. This so-called extraordinary techniques transcended mere techniques. The scripture ultimately allowed one to develop extraordinary abilities, such as generating Li fire, Lihuo, a protective flame capable of incinerating enemies to ash. Qinming found a suitable location near Kai Sha Mountain, a volcano with fissures leading underground, revealing molten lava. So hot. He struggled to adapt at first. Such environments were extremely harmful to ordinary people, saturated with toxic substances. However, to quickly master the Li fire scripture, one needed to endure these conditions in the early stages. According to the scripture, underground lava was a decent starting point. More advanced options included thunder, fire, heavenly light, and other otherworldly flames, but Qinming couldn't find any for now. This is incredibly difficult, Qinming thought. He could master ordinary techniques in half a day, and even more complex ones in 2 or 3 days. But he had been practicing the Li fire force for 5 days already. He realized this was a super complex heavenly light force, likely fusing countless fundamental secret forces. The Li Fire Li Huo force lacked any gradual progression from simple to complex, immediately presenting the highest principles of fusion, a barrier that had stumped countless practitioners. After 5 days of relentless practice, his eyes burned red from the fiery qi, Qinming finally managed to generate a trace of Li Fire Li Huo force, letting out a long breath of relief. Truly an extraordinary technique, he mused. Even the initial stages of the Li Fire force are profound. It was worth the effort. Qinming was reasonably satisfied. The Li Fire force could kill enemies and also form a layer of Li Fire divine light around his body, providing excellent defense. Thunder again. He sprang to his feet, rushed to the surface, and sprinted toward Kaisha Mountain. For the past few days, whenever he heard thunder, he would race to Kaisha Mountain and wait near the Thunder Fire Alchemy Hall. But each time, the thunder would rumble a few times and then fade away, leaving nothing behind. Lightning is weaving across the night sky, very close to the mountain peak. Qinming's excitement surged. What others feared as thunder fire heavenly light, he saw as a potent spiritual great medicine. This time, no grand spectacle unfolded. Only 3 bolts of thunder fire heavenly light descended, their radiant energy splitting the dark night and bathing the golden hall in a shower of golden light. Fireballs rolled across the ground, illuminating the entire area. That really hurt. Qinming stood alone in the Thunder Fire Alchemy Hall, finally understanding why most cultivators only dared attempt the first thunder fire of early spring, when the energy was relatively mild. The spiritual substance isn't as abundant as it was in early spring, but the heavenly light is far more violent. This was his first-hand experience, yet he felt no disappointment. Enduring the excruciating pain, he wore a radiant smile. After all, this was immensely beneficial for mastering the Li Fire scripture. With the 3 bolts of thunder fire heavenly light now past, he stretched his body, having fully entered the Li Fire scripture. He no longer needed to endure the harsh environment of the magma lands. What a pity the spiritual substance is insufficient. If only a dozen more bolts of thunder fire heavenly light had struck. Qinming, his body blackened but brimming with vitality, strode away into the torrential rain. That kid disguised himself and entered the Thunder Fire Alchemy Hall again. He's completely mad. Meng Xinghai exclaimed in shock upon receiving the report. He instructed a trusted aide, find him immediately. Tell him the extraordinary technique and spiritual substance have arrived. Tell him not to cause any trouble. Qinming's slaying of the black-robed, masked woman in the desert and his subsequent killing an outer sage couldn't possibly go unnoticed. In the beyond the mortal realm, whispers began to circulate. It was likely a master from Kaisha City who intervened and saved Qinming. We can ignore this for now. The real spectacle is yet to come. Every Taoist sect, Tao lineage or Tao tradition, in blessed land from beyond the mortal realm will send representatives to compete for that artifact, the one that could bring us closer to immortality. I must admit, I'm growing quite anxious. That's true. In such a remote place, a mere awakener who only broke through his bottleneck through physical mutation would never have entered our sight again if we hadn't paid attention. He's already living in a different world from us. We should set aside past grudges for now. Blank. End of chapter. Subscribe to the MTL World at Malworld 1 YouTube channel. Novel, Night Without Borders. Chapter 97, Climbing the Peak. Author, Chen Dong. Translator, Shadow Knight AK. Editor, Shadow Knight AK. Qinming had absorbed 3 streams of otherworldly heavenly light. Although his entire body was now pitch black, he was unharmed. On the contrary, his qi and spirit were more vigorous than ever. As he circulated the Li Fire scripture, he felt a surging vitality coursing through his veins, accompanied by waves of heat that seemed to envelope and purify his body, nourishing his spirit. Qinming was astonished. This extraordinary technique truly lived up to its name, capable of purging impurities and refining his essence. After just mastering its fundamentals, his physique had noticeably improved. The Li Fire scripture is extraordinary, he mused. Once comprehended, this technique can induce gradual mutations in the body. Over time, its profound benefits will become fully manifest. He sensed that he had grown stronger since his battle in the desert. This tangible progress fueled his dedication, driving him to persist in his arduous cultivation. After washing away the traces of thunder fire, his dark hair dripped with water, his physique sculpted and gleaming, and his vitality visibly enhanced. Soon after, Qinming arrived at the city lord's mansion. Uncle Meng, you summoned me. Meng Xinghai replied, we're about to depart for beyond the mortal realm. Stop recklessly tinkering in the Thunder Fire Alchemy Hall and maintain your body in peak condition. I'm just eager to grow stronger, so I can make a difference in beyond the mortal realm, Qinming countered. Meng Xinghai smiled. I knew you'd been particularly eager to improve lately. Stop wasting your energy on trivial pursuits, everything's already prepared for you. He pointed to 2 boxes on the coffee table. An extraordinary technique manual and a rare spiritual substance. These will significantly enhance your strength. Qinming couldn't suppress his grin. Having mastered the Li fire force and now receiving such good news felt like double blessings. His power could ascend even further. He eagerly opened the box containing the secret manual, then frowned. Golden Silkworm Technique. Is this a technique related to otherworldly beings? Qinming had heard of special texts that, while imitating high-tier lifeforms, ultimately unlocked powers far surpassing those of the original aberrants. This book has little to do with the high-tier aberrant golden silkworm. The name is merely a facade, Meng Xinghai said gravely, explaining the details. If Qinming could fully master this extraordinary technique, he might even gain access to an even more extraordinary secret scripture. Qinming's eyes widened in surprise. The golden silkworm name is just a cover. There's an even more powerful scripture hidden behind it. Meng Xinghai nodded. When preparing the awakening technique for you, I naturally considered the long term. Unfortunately, I lack the means to help you obtain that rare scripture directly. If you master this manual and earn its recognition, you might gain access to the other one. Qinming's spirits soared. He immediately began studying the manual on the spot, eager to uncover its mysteries. He finally understood why it was called the Golden Silkworm Technique. The technique recorded in this manual cultivated a heavenly light force that resembled silkworm threads, capable of forming a luminous cocoon around the body with astonishing defensive power. Furthermore, upon reaching advanced levels, it could absorb rare golden essence qi, making the silkworm-like heavenly light force and its cocoon even more resilient and indestructible. So, the initial stages primarily focus on body protection. Qinming mused, a peculiar expression on his face. He had recently acquired several defensive secret techniques, such as the Golden Armor Technique and Golden Light Shield, each exceptionally formidable. Unfortunately, he had only mastered the Vajra Diamond Force and Golden Light Force to a beginner level. Without consuming the three-colored flower or entering the Thunder Fire Alchemy Hall to receive otherworldly heavenly light, it would be difficult to advance them further. Meng Xinghai remarked, many hard cultivation techniques are indeed powerful, but excessive rigidity leads to brittleness. The Golden Silkworm Technique, however, combines flexibility with resilience, offering boundless versatility. Moreover, if you turn the page, you'll find its offensive capabilities even more terrifying. Qinming continued reading, his expression growing solemn. It was indeed an extraordinary technique. Even without delving into the later chapters, the usage of the heavenly light force alone were astonishing. These supple golden silkworm threads, when cultivated to advanced levels, could be projected outward, swiftly piercing opponents. At even higher levels, the heavenly light force transformed into golden silkworm threads that danced erratically, capable of tearing apart an opponent's heavenly light, weapons, and even distorting space itself. Qinming's spirit surged. I can't wait to master this and test it against the Dao sect disciples. Meng Xinghai cautioned him, in the awakening realm, it will only dramatically enhance your defense. As for other aspects, consider those after you reach the Outer Saint Realm. Tiān, there was a mistranslation in previous chapters where I used, Outer Sage Realm. The correct term is, Outer Saint Realm, and I will be using this translation from now on. Uncle Meng, are you worried about me getting in trouble in the spiritual cave? That's why you're giving me this defensive technique. But even if I grasp the basics quickly, how will I increase my heavenly light force reserves? Qinming asked, knowing such an extraordinary technique must consume immense energy. Meng Xinghai first added mind-soothing incense to the purple bronze incense burner before replying, you only need to master the golden silkworm force's fundamentals. I'll handle the rest. Qinming's eyes lit up with anticipation as he gazed at Meng Xinghai. Meng Xinghai didn't elaborate, only assuring him that the grand gift would boost his heavenly light force reserves. Also, with early spring approaching, the esoteric sects, blessed lands, and some special advanced academies will begin selecting disciples. The annual grand examinations are starting soon. You don't need to participate in the initial stages. As the city lord, I can still declare you the city's top candidate. Of course, if you aim higher, later competitions will be unavoidable, like vying for first place in larger regions. The rewards are substantial. I should focus on strengthening myself first, Qinming said. He would soon be traveling to the beyond the mortal realm and couldn't rely solely on Li Qingyu's protection. In fact, if the opportunity arose, he wanted to exchange a few moves with some outsider disciples. Meng Xinghai nodded. You're right. Don't get distracted lately. The beyond the mortal realm disciples, competition will likely become the focus point, drawing attention from all sides. Consider this your preparation for battle. I'm an awakener, not an outsider disciple. By the way, Uncle Meng, since the spiritual cave is saturated with otherworldly heavenly light so dense it's practically solid, the spiritual substance within hasn't dissipated, has it? If I undergo nourishment there, could I undergo another awakening? Qinming asked. Don't be reckless. The heavenly light there is incredibly violent. You wouldn't be trying to rapidly advance your realm just to challenge the outsider disciples, would you? Meng Xinghai teased, glancing at him. Luckily, your realm isn't high enough to steal their spotlight. Of course not. I know who the main players are in that arena. I'm just going to broaden my horizons, Qinming replied with a smile. He then bid farewell, preparing for his fifth awakening. That night, he opened the jade jar, revealing a shimmering purple liquid that flowed with a hazy, luminous mist, its spiritual essence so concentrated it seemed impossible to dissolve. Qinming tilted his head back and drained the entire jar. Immediately, a searing heat surged through his body, as if he were burning from within. A vibrant life force coursed through his veins, invigorating every cell. This wasn't his first experience with awakening. Having grown accustomed to the process, he paid little attention to the discomfort. He first practiced the awakening techniques from the Silk Book, then delved into comprehending the Golden Silkworm technique. Qinming could clearly sense his physical constitution steadily improving. This was a comprehensive enhancement, affecting everything from his strength to his perception. The fifth awakening primarily focused on enhancing his physical resilience, in simpler terms, making him tougher to beat. The sixth awakening would likely grant him a unique, special ability. That night, after falling into a deep slumber, the golden jade robe reappeared. Regrettably, he didn't dream of his grandfather, nor did he glimpse his childhood self. This was because his memories of learning the Silk Book before joining the Kui clan had fully resurfaced during his previous awakening, flooding back in complete clarity. At dawn, Qinming sighed, wondering if his grandfather was still alive. The old man had claimed he had 10 years left, but 13 years had already passed. I'm not strong enough, he lamented. Otherwise, I'd simply confront the Kui clan's key members directly. Qinming put aside his thoughts and allowed his body to undergo its awakening. He then immersed himself in studying the Golden Silkworm technique. That evening, he completed his fifth awakening, significantly enhancing his senses, speed, and physical resilience. His strength now exceeded 6,000 catties. Without a doubt, his power was rapidly ascending. Qinming remained indoors, knowing this was still insufficient. He diligently studied the Golden Silkworm technique and practiced its techniques tirelessly in the courtyard. By the fifth day, he had cultivated the Golden Silkworm force. Wisps of golden light emerged from his skin like sprouts breaking through the soil, brimming with vitality. However, he couldn't yet weave them into a protective shield, indicating he had only just grasped the basics. Yet this was enough. Meng Xinghai had already prepared a grand gift for him, allowing him to continue advancing. In recent days, news of the Beyond the Mortal Realm disciples, competition had indeed spread across the land, drawing widespread attention. Eventually, even the topic of the Great Examination was overshadowed. This was primarily because the path of the outsiders was exceptionally powerful, and any development involving them would inevitably capture the world's attention, especially a competition among their core disciples. Now, in every city, tea house, and restaurant, people were eagerly discussing the matter. When Qinming entered the city lord's mansion, he found Meng Xinghai entertaining a guest, a young man with a vaguely familiar face. Brother Chong, no, Brother Qinming, long time no see. The youth greeted with a radiant smile, standing up to greet him. His lips were crimson, his teeth pearly white, and his eyes sparkled with an inner light, hinting at considerable strength. Qinming carefully recalled and recognized him. They had met before in Qinghe City. His name was Li Qingxiao, and he was likely 14 years old now, the junior brother of Li Qingshu. It has indeed been a long time, Qinming nodded. I originally planned to come here to get recognition from Uncle Meng and have him declare me the city's number one. But Brother Qinming beat me to it, so I won't compete with you. I'll find another city, Li Qingxiao said with a smile. Qinming smiled faintly, not believing this scheming youth hadn't known he was here all along. He guessed that after Qinming had slain the black-clad woman and an outer saint in the desert, those old acquaintances, unsure of who had done it, had discussed the matter. Qinming suspected Li Qingxiao genuinely wanted to find a city to gain recognition and had stopped by here to gather information along the way. Li Qingxiao sighed. I never imagined Brother Qin was so formidable. You've quietly become the city's number one. No wonder my cousin speaks so highly of you. Qinming ignored him. Everyone knew about his feud with Li Qingshu. The youth's mention of this could only mean ill intentions. Find another city. You should leave now, Meng Xinghai began to drive him away. Li Qingxiao stubbornly remained. Uncle Meng, you're so biased. You're chasing me away just for sitting here, yet you're so protective of Brother Qinming. Li Qingxiao smiled. Brother Qin, my cousin said you'll definitely meet again in the future. He highly respects you, and those past misunderstandings were just minor incidents. Qinming replied curtly. Seeing his lack of response, Li Qingxiao continued, my cousin believes that Brother Qin will climb to the peak of the awakening path and eventually gain entry to the Beyond the Mortal Realm. Is this supposed to be high praise? In the outside world, ordinary awakeners might be thrilled by such recognition from an outsider. But Li Qingshu's assessment of Qinming was far from flattering. The implication was clear: Qinming would have to strive relentlessly, reaching the pinnacle of his power, before he could even meet Li Qingshu in the beyond the mortal realm. There was also an unspoken layer of meaning: what would a master of the awakening path do in the beyond the mortal realm? Become a jade armored guard or a golden armored guard? Meng Xinghai's expression darkened. Stop stirring up trouble, he warned. Tell your cousin to focus on the competition among the outsider disciples. He might not even be able to claim that item in the spiritual cave. I doubt he'll get it either, Qinming added. Li Qingshao's smile widened. Just wait and see. The competition for the outer disciples is about to begin. Blank. End of chapter. Subscribe to the MTL World at Malworld 1 YouTube channel. Novel, Night Without Borders. Chapter 98, Unprecedented. Author, Chen Dong. Translator, Shadow Knight AK. Editor, Shadow Knight AK. Meng Xinghai knew Li Qingshao's elders, and couldn't directly scold him. So he simply waved him away, but the youth remained seated with a cheeky grin. Using a secret technique, Meng Xinghai telepathically asked Qinming, how's the cultivation of the golden silkworm technique? It's done, Qinming replied. If Li Qingsha hadn't been present, old Meng would have gotten up again. He was genuinely astonished. 5 days. How could he have mastered it so quickly? This time, they didn't had much time. Meng Xinghai had planned to use a secret method to help Qinming get started, but the young man had achieved it on his own in just a few days. Meng Xinghai's gaze shifted. This youth continued to surprise him, consistently exceeding his expectations and far surpassing his initial hopes. Brother Qinming. Li Qingsha began. Get lost. Meng Xinghai snapped, his dislike for the youth growing stronger. Can't you see we're having a harmonious uncle-nephew moment? We're about to discuss serious matters, and you're just here to cause trouble. Li Qingsha froze, his face flushing crimson. Having been praised since childhood and harboring immense pride, he felt utterly humiliated. In truth, Meng Xinghai was simply annoyed by his presence. Uncle Meng, if you're going to talk like that, I'm not happy. I'm challenging Qinming, the city's #1, right here and now. Li Qingsha rose, his entire body radiating heavenly light force. What's wrong with you? Meng Xinghai showed him no leniency. Li Qingsha dared not retaliate. Uncle Meng, I'm just following the rules. Anyone has the right to challenge the city lord's appointed champion during the great examination. He regretted his words the moment they left his lips. He had only stopped by to gather information and had no intention of truly offending Meng Xinghai. Uncle Meng, I'm sorry. I'm just a naive kid. Please don't hold it against me, Li Qingsha apologized, instantly transforming back into a sunny, smiling youth. Meng Xinghai replied calmly, since you've already issued the challenge, if I refuse, people will accuse me of favoritism and corruption. Kaisha City's champion would become a laughingstock. I have no choice but to arrange this match. Li Qingsha felt trapped. If he angered Meng Xinghai, his family would never forgive him. Xiao Qin, accept his challenge, Meng Xinghai ordered, immediately instructing his men to prepare the arena and invite spectators. Qinming naturally agreed. How could he sit calmly while old Meng was clearly furious? He had initially intended to ignore the boy's antics, but since the youth insisted on provoking him, he wouldn't mind warming up a bit. Besides, he was still a youth, why act so mature? He needed to show some youthful spirit. Otherwise, old Meng would look at him with that strange expression. Li Qingsha wanted to say something, but it was too late. The city lord had spoken, and his subordinates immediately sprang into action. Not only guards from the city lord's mansion but also spectators from outside the city flocked to the martial arena to watch the duel. Everything was quickly arranged. Please. Li Qingsha snapped, his earlier desire to call Qinming brother, long gone, replaced by a burning rage. The martial arena of the city lord's mansion was vast, easily accommodating a duel between awakening stage cultivators. Li Qingsha, clad in luxurious brocade robes and adorned with exquisite jade, cut a dashing figure. Yet he drew a gleaming broadsword, its blade wider and longer than ordinary swords. Where's your weapon? He demanded. I'm older than you, so I don't need one, Qinming replied, his voice calm. Dressed in simple green robes, his handsome face and clear, bright eyes radiated an extraordinary aura, like an immortal descended from the heavens. His robes fluttered gently as he moved, his steps leaving no trace of dust. You're quite arrogant, Li Qingsha said coldly. When did you embark on the awakening path? How dare you look down on someone who's already undergone 7 awakenings? The crowd gasped in shock. A 14-year-old boy had already undergone 7 awakenings. Qinming wasn't surprised. His dear younger brother, Kui Chongshuan, who was not yet 13, had already begun consuming the 3-colored flower and fusing 4 types of heavenly light force. The millennial clan possessed unfathomable depths of power. Their members could undergo awakening before reaching the golden age, provided their innate talent was sufficient. During the awakening phase, the only limitation they faced was a special, buffer period, of 1 year, during which frequent bodily mutations were prohibited. Come on. Qinming gestured for Li Qingsha to make his move. Li Qingxiao's expression turned icy. He left behind numerous afterimages as he moved, resembling a phantom flitting across the arena. The spectators' faces paled at the sight. His blade flashed, executing a technique from a renowned sword manual. The broadsword crackled with thunderous energy, as his heavenly light force vibrated through the weapon, imbuing it with an unstoppable momentum. Qinming evaded the sword's edge and struck the side of the sword with a fist, using a concussive force to shatter its momentum. In his eyes, Li Qingxiao's sword technique was merely passable. The force nearly wrenched the sword from Li Qingxiao's grip, freezing his body and disrupting his phantom-like movements. With lightning speed, Qinming's green robes billowed as he appeared behind Li Qingxiao and kicked the youth squarely in the rear, sending him flying. Li Qingxiao nearly exploded with rage. This was the man he had doubted, belittled, and even subtly mocked using his cousin Li Qingshu's words. Yet now, having personally entered the arena, he had suffered such a humiliating defeat. After landing, he moved with ghostly agility, swinging his sword again with a thunderous roar, a lethal technique from another sword manual. Qinming channeled explosive qi and struck the sword. Even a broadsword forged through countless hammer blows shattered instantly, its fragments clattering harshly against the ground. Li Qingxiao froze in shock. His weapon had been shattered with bare hands. Then, a kick to his backside sent him sprawling. Meng Xinghai knew the Li family elders well. Qinming didn't want to draw blood, so the 2 kicks would suffice. He guessed Li Qingxiao would rather take a sword than be kicked in the back. If word of this humiliation reached his noble clan acquaintances, what would they think? Li Qingxiao's face paled, utterly devastated. Raised on praise, he had never imagined being so easily defeated. Qinming objectively assessed his opponent. Li Qingxiao's skills were actually quite impressive. But since the young man had been so arrogant, actively provoking him, Qinming showed no mercy, aiming to suppress this scheming youth with overwhelming force in the shortest possible time. Otherwise, Li Qingxiao wouldn't have fallen so quickly. Child, are you alright? Everyone loses sometimes. Just focus on improving yourself. Don't be discouraged, Meng Xinghai offered timely comfort. Li Qingxiao returned to the living room, his spirit crushed and without a word. Meng Xinghai said, I have my principles. I would never arbitrarily declare Shaoqin the city's #1 just because we're close. Li Qingxiao nodded woodenly. After a long silence, he finally recovered and said, Qinming, you are indeed formidable on the path of awakening. I'm 14, just old enough to meet the requirements of beyond the mortal realm. From now on, I will embark on the immortal path. Congratulations, Qinming replied flatly. Li Qingxiao continued, I originally planned to walk both paths simultaneously, but you forced me to focus on one. Are you going to tell me next that we'll meet again in beyond the mortal realm after reaching the peak? Qinming asked, his gaze fixed on Li Qingxiao. If I ever set foot in beyond the mortal realm, it might not be what you expect, certainly not what you desire. Li Qingxiao and an elderly man rode away on a strange bird, vowing never to return to Kaisha City. Meng Xinghai sipped his tea, smiling at Qinming. I've prepared a 5-colored spiritual branch for you. Its effects are far more potent than the 3-colored flower. It will help you fuse the heavenly light force and significantly increase your total energy reserves. This must be incredibly rare and valuable, right? Qinming asked. Meng Xinghai nodded. Indeed. It comes from beyond the mortal realm, from a sacred tree rooted in the heavenly light pool. The ancient branches are too fragile to harvest, but we can collect the new growth each spring. Each branch bears 5 different colors of leaves, appearing fresh and vibrant on the surface, yet brimming with potent heavenly light essence within. An ancient tree. The heavenly light pool. Qinming's mind drifted into reverie. What a wondrous place that must be. Even a small segment of the 5-colored spiritual branch, newly grown in early spring, possessed astonishing medicinal properties. It only underscored the unfathomable depths of beyond the mortal realm. Is its yield plentiful? Qinming asked, genuinely curious. Meng Xinghai replied, every early spring, after beyond the mortal realm distributes its share, the millennial clans receive a small quota. This year, my lineage lacks any promising descendants, so I'm giving this branch to you. Qinming sighed in admiration. This is what true foundation means. Because beyond the mortal realm possessed such overwhelming power, it naturally claimed the best resources. Even a mere trickle of their bounty, a small segment of new growth, became a rare spiritual object in the outside world. Meng Xinghai seemed to sense Qinming's thoughts. Feeling the pressure now, aren't you? He said. The gap is vast. If I hadn't been identified as having other paths open to me in my youth, giving me a chance to change my destiny, I would have been stuck on the awakening path. Even if I cultivated for a lifetime and reached the pinnacle of achievement, I would have remained nothing more than a gatekeeper outside the esoteric sect. Clearly, Meng Xinghai's path was connected to the esoteric sect and intertwined with the divine. Qinming nodded. He had previously believed he understood the various paths quite well, but now he realized his knowledge was still limited. Suddenly, a fiery light seemed to ignite in his eyes, his conviction hardening. All that mattered now was to focus on improving himself. He had endured arduous cultivation not to become a mere follower of the outsider disciples. Qinming opened the long, rectangular jade box on the table. Inside lay a thumb-thick, tender branch, over 2 feet long, radiating 5-colored mist and haze. The heavenly light essence was contained within, and only 5 leaves adorned the branch, each a different color, crystalline and translucent, pulsing with vibrant life force. Meng Xinghai said, "The outsider disciples, competition is about to begin. Stay at the city lord's mansion for the next 2 days, consume the 5-colored spiritual branch to fully refine your heavenly light force, and then you should head there." Qinming believed it wouldn't take long. The last time he consumed the 3-colored flower, his heavenly light force had achieved perfect unity within a single day. Meng Xinghai asked, "What weapon do you use?" "I'll have someone refine it for you, incorporating rare metals for enhanced properties." "Uncle Meng, I have a sword here. Could you have someone reforge it for me?" Qinming drew the jade iron sword. He and Old Lu had forged the jade iron sword using crude methods, and it remained unsharpened to this day. This. Meng Xinghai's eyes lit up. This was far superior to the materials he had prepared, pure jade iron, completely free of impurities. He sighed, "You've got quite the find, kid. This is extraordinary jade iron. But the forging technique. I won't comment. It's a complete waste. I also have a small piece I'd like to refine into an arrowhead," Qinming said, producing a walnut-sized fragment of blue jade iron. "That's extravagant. Even my arrows aren't made of such material. Be careful when you fire it, don't waste it," Meng Xinghai warned. That day, Qinming consumed the 5-colored spiritual branch in a quiet courtyard within the city lord's mansion. Immediately, he felt his entire body burning with heavenly light, as if being torn apart. The heavenly light essence contained within the 5-colored spiritual branch was far more volatile than that of the 3-colored flower, but Qinming's physique had also grown significantly stronger. That night, he pushed his Li fire force to its peak and cultivated his golden silkworm force to the maximum limit allowed by his 5th awakening. His body flickered between the divine radiance of Li fire and shimmering strands of golden silkworm silk, both extraordinary techniques providing extraordinary protective effects through their heavenly light force. Additionally, Qinming rapidly advanced his recently acquired Vajra force, wind force, and golden light force. By dawn, he had gathered all his heavenly light force, unifying it before fusing it completely with the awakening technique from the Silk Book. A brief test immediately revealed a dramatic increase in the power of his heavenly light force. This surge stemmed primarily from the fusion of potent techniques like the Golden Light Force, Li Fire Force, and Golden Silkworm Force, especially the latter two, which belong to the extraordinary cultivation techniques. Meanwhile, the competition among outsider disciples had become common knowledge. From the Blessed Land to the millennial clans, and even the major cities shrouded in the night mist, everyone was discussing it. With his strength now unprecedentedly formidable and his mind increasingly serene, Qinming felt fully prepared to venture into the beyond the mortal realm. Blank. End of chapter. Subscribe to the MTL World at Malworld 1 YouTube channel. Novel. Night Without Borders. Chapter 99. Turbulent Winds and Roiling Clouds. Author. Chen Dong. Translator. Shadow Knight AK. Editor. Shadow Knight AK. Late at night, Kaisha City lay shrouded in a hazy mist. In the quiet courtyard, Qinming gazed up at the night sky. With his greatly enhanced strength, he no longer felt as anxious about venturing into the beyond the mortal realm, now possessing a newfound sense of confidence. He reflected on the changes within himself. While his physical strength and perception had improved, the most significant transformation lay in the evolution of his heavenly light force, which had become fundamentally different. He tossed a sheet of paper into the air and flicked his finger. The paper shattered into dozens of fragments, fluttering downward like withered leaves. As Qinming approached, the paper shards were repelled by an invisible force before they could even touch him, either scattering with a crisp sound or exploding into fine dust. He hadn't consciously activated his heavenly light force, it had manifested spontaneously, automatically blocking any foreign objects and launching swift counterattacks. Without a doubt, Qinming's heavenly light force was now not only far more powerful but also remarkably spiritual. Now, if anyone harbored ill intentions and attempted to sprinkle special medicinal powders on him under the guise of proximity, they would certainly fail. Just days earlier, he had been targeted by a former acquaintance who tainted him with a peculiar scent, allowing Bat Bird to track him relentlessly, leaving him unable to shake them off. If this continues, the heavenly light force will keep evolving, eventually triggering a mysterious qualitative change that will bring me great surprises. Qinming thought with anticipation. He now harbored a wild ambition, to continuously fuse various techniques, believing that one day his own creation might surpass the heaven-shattering force and Tathagata force, with limitless potential. Clearly, the fusion of these two extraordinary techniques had played a crucial role in the heavenly light force's transformation. In the next moment, the courtyard lit up with flames as Qinming activated the Li fire force. A faint crimson glow enveloped his body. It resembled a divine flame, born from his flesh and blood, causing no harm but instead nourishing him. This energy transformed into the heavenly light force, protecting him from within. Qinming reached out, and a stack of letters turned to ash upon contact. He was testing his progress. The Li fire force had already begun to evolve into a special ability. A metallic clang rang out as a faint golden armor seemed to materialize on Qinming's skin. This was the Vajra force, a formidable defensive technique he had mastered. Then, fine golden threads, as delicate as silk, wove themselves across his body, forming a dense protective net. Even strands of his dark hair shimmered with golden light. This was the true power of the Silk Book technique. It could merge various heavenly light forces into a unified whole and even transform them into specific techniques. Moreover, when the fused heavenly light force circulated along the pathways of his practiced extraordinary techniques, the divine flames and golden threads seemed even stronger than the original Li fire force and golden silkworm force. Qinming was immensely satisfied. These transformations filled him with joy. No wonder an elder master had inscribed a single character on the silk scroll, fusion. The master had even used this character to admonish future practitioners. That night, he sank into the deepest slumber. The heavenly light force automatically surfaced, completely enveloping him in the form of the golden jade robe. As shallow night descended, the fire spring of Kai Sha City gradually intensified, resembling the rising sun casting its dawn rays. Qinming awoke, feeling his spirit, energy, and vitality surging. He yearned to find an outsider disciple to beat into a pulp. How does a night's sleep feel like taking a powerful nourishing medicine? He wondered, puzzled. Without wasting time, he immediately informed Meng Xinghai that he had consumed the five-colored spiritual branch and fully integrated the heavenly light force. So quickly. Meng Xinghai's expression froze momentarily. Fortunately, he had grown accustomed to the youthful prodigy's habit of exceeding expectations. If this had been their first meeting, Meng Xinghai would have stood up again. He had given Qinming 2 days to absorb the violent heavenly light essence from the five-colored spiritual branch, but the boy had completed the task in a single night. What truly defined innate talent? Meng Xinghai felt compelled to redefine the very standard of the term. This youth's abilities had only deepened his admiration. He said, "The sword and arrows aren't ready yet. Come, I'll take you to choose a hard bow and show you the other weapons." Qinming followed him into the armory, showing no hesitation. He immediately grabbed what he needed, selecting a set of 12 short spears and strapping them to his back. When Meng Xinghai saw him pick up a great bow shimmering with dark light, his face twitched slightly. That was a treasure bow requiring over 6,000 caddies of draw weight. It now dawned on him that Qinming's earlier claim of being slightly stronger than his peers wasn't arrogance but rather extreme modesty. Even youthful prodigies who had undergone 5 awakenings could only approach 5,000 caddies of strength, still falling short of Qinming's capabilities. Next, Qinming chose a bronze staff, actually forged from mixed metals for exceptional durability, classifying it as a heavy weapon. He tested the staff, finding it suitable for use as a spear, a heavy hammer, or even a sword when wielded with both hands. With this, Qinming's mastery of the 4 arts, sword, spear, arrow, and hammer, could be fully demonstrated in the great battles of the beyond the mortal realm. Of course, weapons were merely superficial. Given Qinming's current strength, his most formidable asset remained the heavenly light force within him, which possessed the greatest destructive power. Meng Xinghai said, "There's no need to choose armor. The golden armor forged by the outsiders is excellent." Now that all preparations were complete except for their departure, Meng Xinghai felt it was time to urge the craftsman to finish forging the swords and arrows. "Why are you going outside?" Meng Xinghai asked. "What are you looking at?" "It's going to thunder," Qinming replied, glancing at the sky. He dropped a pile of weapons, turned, and sprinted away at full speed. Meng Xinghai stared after him, bewildered. Is he going to the Thunder Fire Alchemy Hall again? He's truly obsessed with that place. "The thunderstorm isn't very strong," Meng Xinghai called out. "It's unlikely to strike, and your strength has only just improved. There's no need to rush back to absorb heavenly light so hastily." "I'm going to practice an extraordinary technique," Qinming retorted. "How is that place suitable?" Meng Xinghai followed him, worried that a violent thunder fire heavenly light might descend and injure Qinming before their departure. "Thunder fire alchemy is naturally suitable for practicing the golden silkworm technique," Qinming explained. Crack. This time, Qinming absorbed 4 streams of thunder fire heavenly light, his body turning pitch black. He remained rooted in place, continuously circulating energy according to the Li fire scripture's cultivation path. A layer of fiery light seemed on the verge of erupting from his skin, forming a unique protective aura. Immediately afterward, Qinming began circulating the golden silkworm technique, his movements flowing with effortless ease. He hadn't been exaggerating, the so-called thunder fire alchemy was indeed effective. However, he was using the Li fire technique to enhance the golden silkworm technique. The secret manual Ning Siqi found for you is truly remarkable, Meng Xinghai nodded. The synergy between these two extraordinary techniques was proving immensely beneficial to Qinming's progress. Qinming sensed the total amount of heavenly light within him had increased once more. For those who relied on bodily mutations, the awakening stage represented the period of their most rapid growth in power. He refused to let any opportunity slip by. Unfortunately, the maximum number of awakening cycles was 9. After transcending this major realm, advancing to the next domain would become significantly more challenging, requiring him to devise alternative methods. By afternoon, Kaisha City was at its brightest. Qinming received a brand new jade iron sword, far superior to the crude one he and old Lu had forged together. Slightly shorter than his arm, the sword possessed sleek lines and a graceful curve. Its pristine white body radiated a soft, lustrous glow, adorned with intricate carvings of dragons, phoenixes, and other auspicious symbols. From any angle, it resembled a masterpiece of artistry, brimming with aesthetic appeal. Meng Xinghai explained that he had carved the dragon and phoenix patterns onto the sword himself. These inscriptions would enhance its effectiveness against unseen entities. Moreover, this was a parent-child sword. The sheath was actually a thicker sword, eliminating the need for Qinming to apply mineral pigments for concealment. The arrowhead glowed with a blue radiance, its edge razor-sharp and etched with numerous characters. The shaft was forged from a special material. I originally planned to use rare metals for the shaft, Meng Xinghai said, but this time I refined the essence and embedded it within the shaft. This allows your heavenly light force to extend to the arrowhead. Qinming noticed a thin metal wire running through the shaft, connecting to the arrowhead. Like jade iron, this wire could conduct heavenly light force. In his current state, unable to project his heavenly light externally, only such rare metals could achieve this. Let's get ready. We should set out tomorrow. Meng Xinghai decided the next day. Before their departure, he used esoteric sect techniques to conceal Qinming's true appearance, a necessary precaution given the Kui clan's decree barring him from their circles for the next few years. Qinming gazed at his reflection in the mirror. His sword-like eyebrows and starry eyes had been completely altered, yet his new appearance remained striking. He now possessed a heroic, imposing presence, his aura sharp and commanding. In the past, he only exuded such an aura during battle. Now, it was his constant state, making him unmistakably one of the most combative awakener. Uncle Meng, what is this? Qinming asked, standing in the martial arena of the city lord's mansion. At first glance, he had mistaken the flying mount for a giant, winged turtle. Upon closer inspection, he realized Meng Xinghai had spared no expense on the creature's armor, which was crafted from rare metals and covered its avian body completely. This was a high-tier mutant creature, its normal plumage a pale gold. Not only was it heavily armored, but its golden head was also protected by a steel helmet inlaid with arcane metals. Traveling through the night mist is extremely dangerous, Meng Xinghai explained. If someone were to attack the mount, the consequences would be disastrous. He admitted that the bird's armor was no less formidable than his own. This wasn't his personal mount, he had borrowed it from an old friend deep in the mountains. Meng Xinghai had also altered his appearance, wanting to keep his departure from Kaisha City a secret. Our destination isn't far, about 4,000 miles from here, he revealed. The place had once been a crucial stronghold for the outsiders, but a millennium ago, it had been pierced and abandoned after being engulfed by endless heavenly light. Luofu City, their destination, dwarfed Kaisha City in scale. Even through the thick night mist, the magnificent, radiant city could be seen on the horizon, its light piercing the night sky. Though Mount Luofu had been abandoned by the outsiders, the surrounding region had not declined. On the contrary, it flourished immensely, as the area guarding the ruins of the former immortal mountain of beyond the mortal realm would never lack high-grade fire springs. To think that back then, the top experts of beyond the mortal realm sought to elevate Mount Luofu's grade. Meng Xinghai shook his head, leaving the sentence unfinished. Clearly, the events of that era were of immense significance, and the outsiders' ambitions had been utterly audacious. Mount Luofu was already extraordinary, considered an immortal mountain of beyond the mortal realm. Yet they still sought to elevate its grade. Qinming could only marvel at the scale of their ambition. Luofu City had recently experienced an explosive surge in popularity. News of the outsider disciples' competition had spread far and wide, drawing numerous cultivators eager to witness the unfolding events. The city gate tower loomed like a small mountain, its grandeur imposing, while the towering city walls stretched endlessly across the horizon. As Qinming and his companions entered the city, they were immediately struck by its splendor and bustling atmosphere. The city's brilliance rivaled that of the sunlit era. On the wide, spacious streets, multiple beast-drawn carriages could travel abreast without causing congestion. Crowds surged in and out of the shops lining both sides, their businesses thriving. By this point, nearly every inn in the city was fully booked, forcing many to rent private residences. Meng Xinghai had already arranged for 2 rooms in advance, both with small courtyards, a costly luxury in this densely populated giant city where every inch of land was precious. That same day, Qinming met Li Qingyu. She was staying at the neighboring inn and came to see him and Meng Xinghai that evening. Qinming, I'm sorry to trouble you again, Li Qingyu said, her dark hair cascading like a waterfall, her slender figure as graceful as a willow. Dressed in white robes and without makeup, her face was flawlessly refined, her pure and elegant smile like sunlight breaking through the mist, radiating warmth. Qinming chuckled. You've helped me so much already, there's no need for formalities. Your smile is so dazzling I can barely keep my eyes open. Li Qingyu nodded with a gentle smile, relieved that despite everything he'd been through, he hadn't lost his spirit and remained the same as before. Let's take a stroll through the city, grab some food, and I'll tell you about the precautions we need to take at Mount Luofu, Li Qingyu suggested, inviting Meng Xinghai to join them. Meng Xinghai waved his hand in refusal. I'm too old to keep up with you youngsters. I'd rather catch up with my old friends. As Qinming and Li Qingyu left the inn, they soon encountered several familiar faces. Many outsider disciples were staying at the nearby grand inns. What are you looking at? Oh, that's Wang Kaiwei, Li Qingyu remarked with a smile. No, I saw my younger brother, Kui Chongshuan. What's he doing here? Qinming asked. Li Qingyu said, he probably wants to help Kui Chong compete for that near-immortal artifact. Blank. End of chapter. Subscribe to the MTL World at Malworld 1 YouTube channel. Novel, Night Without Borders. Chapter 100, The Overlord Legacy. Author, Chen Dong. Translator, Shadow Knight AK. Editor, Shadow Knight AK. Although it was still early evening, the sky had already darkened. A fiery red glow painted the western horizon, an artificial sunset created by the fire spring, resembling the lingering embers of the setting sun. Qinming glanced at Kui Chongshuan. The young man had grown taller, now nearly as tall as an adult male, and wore gleaming armor that lent him a heroic air. Kui Chongshuan was walking away with a graceful figure, chatting as they strolled. The woman was none other than Wang Kaiwei, whom Qinming hadn't seen in quite some time. Seeing this familiar face naturally brought past events to mind. I feel like I'm a great victim, Qinming thought. The Wang clan blames me, Li Qingshu resents me, and Kui Chong shows no gratitude whatsoever. Yet all I did was take Wang Kaiwei on one brief outing and exchange a few words with her. If he had enjoyed a candlelit stroll with the Wang clan's eldest daughter, sharing mutual admiration, that would be one thing. But his impressions of the Wang clan's noble ladies remained superficial at best. There was no past affair to speak of. Now that all factions had reconciled, even the Kui and Li clans had ceased their hostilities, only Qinming remained in the same precarious position as before, still in danger. Some people didn't want him to rise and return to their site, preferring he remain forever in remote lands. He mustn't shine too brightly or stir up any controversy. As he grumbled, Li Qingyu comforted him, come, I'll show you around and we can try some local delicacies. Luofu city was vast, its streets lined with ancient structures like towering blue stone pagodas and palaces forged from black gold stone, all standing for millennia. In its heyday, Mount Luofu had been renowned throughout the night mist world as a sacred place beyond the mortal realm. These ancient buildings were relics of that era. Near the weathered blue pagodas and black stone palaces stood bustling restaurants, inns, spirit medicine halls, and armories, their entrances thronged with people and business booming. Many senior cultivators also enjoy coming these places, seeking to relive the glory of Mount Luofu from 1,000 years ago, Li Qingyu explained, her white robes flowing as she pointed out the sights. As the evening glow of the western sky bathed the city, her luminous profile, framed by wisps of hair and her slender, willow-like figure, seemed bathed in divine light. Gilded by the sunset, she appeared ethereal and otherworldly, like an immortal maiden descended to the mortal realm. Try Luofu city's specialty dragon meat. It's quite good, Li Qingyu said, lining up at a clean stall to buy 2 skewers of grilled meat. Qinming took a bite. Fish. It's incredibly fresh and tender, with no fishy taste. Exactly. It comes from Jade Dragon Yulong Lake just ahead, Li Qingyu replied, leading him along the ancient district's streets toward a shimmering azure lake. Luofu city boasted high-grade fire springs, accompanied by numerous second and third-tier springs. Specialized fire spring canals lined the streets, resembling flowing lava and creating a distinctive spectacle. At night, the fire springs were gradually dimmed by artificial controls, and the canals were blocked off, allowing the city to transition from dazzling brilliance to a soft, hazy glow. Boats glided across Jade Dragon Lake, while larger vessels echoed with the melodies of zithers and pipa, accompanied by enchanting, melodious singing. Qinming fell into a slight reverie. Having been away from this life for over 2 years, it felt somewhat foreign. Want to go boating? Li Qingyu asked with a smile. No. I'd rather not draw attention by boating with such a radiant core disciple from beyond the mortal realm, Qinming replied with a smile, shaking his head. He wasn't longing for the past, just feeling a pang of nostalgia. Shall we eat first or continue enjoying the night view? Li Qingyu asked. I'm not hungry yet, Qinming replied, glancing at the spirit medicine hall, scholarly pavilion, and armory in the distance. Let's just wander around for a bit. Li Qingyu nodded, noticing his interest. Luofu City is home to many cultivators, she said. The items sold in these pavilions are of excellent quality. She led Qinming into an established brand weapons shop. Despite her ethereal appearance, she wasn't aloof or unapproachable. With a smile, she skillfully haggled with the portly shopkeeper. I sincerely want to buy this flood dragon armor, but your price is outrageous. The shopkeeper, equally adept at bargaining, countered, Miss, in all my years, I've never encountered such an immortal maiden, radiant and otherworldly. But if you're haggling over day gold, you're getting your hands dirty with worldly concerns. Li Qingyu remained unmoved, smiling faintly. I am, after all, a creature of this world. To abandon my true self in pursuit of transcendence would be a betrayal. Lower the price of the flood dragon armor, then lower it again, and we'll be close to a fair deal. Hiss. The shopkeeper gasped, drawing in a sharp breath. Immortal maiden, your bargaining skills are as sharp as your wisdom sword. He turned to Qinming and said, Young man, if I were you, I wouldn't even blink before paying the day gold for this flood dragon armor. How could you let such an immortal maiden-like friend lower the price like this? Qinming remained unfazed. I think her haggling is perfectly fine. How about this? I'll add 1 day gold to whatever price she negotiates. The shopkeeper nearly glared. This flood dragon armor was priced in units of 100 day gold. How dare you? He thought. Adding just 1. What a waste of that handsome face. You'd be better off keeping quiet. Li Qingyu said, it's not genuine flood dragon hide, you know. It probably only contains a trace of the creature's blood. Senior brother, look. Everyone's buying flood dragon armor, a young woman beside a young man said. Pick whatever you like. I'll buy it for you, the young man replied with a smile. When he glanced at Li Qingyu, he was momentarily stunned. She really is like an immortal maiden. Soon, Li Qingyu finalized the price, shoved the flood dragon armor into Qinming's hands, and said, the hide is extraordinary, with exceptional defensive capabilities. You should wear it as soon as you get back. The plump shopkeeper stared at Qinming with a strange look in his eyes, genuinely impressed. Beside them, the young man froze, his entire demeanor collapsing. Glancing at his junior sister selecting armor nearby, he suddenly found her less captivating than before. Qinming chuckled, I'm very sorry. You're showing me around town, treating me to dinner, and now you're even gifting me this priceless flood dragon armor. The portly shopkeeper desperately wanted to detain him for a longer conversation. Hearing this, the young man's heart churned with conflicting emotions. He immediately lost all desire to pay for his junior sister's purchase. Don't be so formal with me. Back then, when I wanted to taste wine for the first time, you treated me to an exorbitantly priced bottle. Li Qingyu and Qinming left, chatting as they strolled. They reminisced about old times, laughing at the memories. Who would have thought that immortal Li, the celestial maiden of today, was once almost a little drunkard? Qinming teased. Among his closest friends from the past were Li Qingyu and Ning Siqi. The worst part is, you didn't even take a sip yourself. Li Qingyu recalled her youthful rebellion, when she had insisted on drinking wine. The memory was genuinely amusing. I don't have a taste for it, Qinming replied. Actually, I wanted to see a noble immortal maiden drunk with wine, or a maiden practicing drunken fist technique. But you just stayed perfectly composed, not even a blush on your cheeks. He feigned disappointment. Why do I suddenly feel like punching you? Li Qingyu smoothed her hair, remembering that this guy had actually wanted to see her drunk back then. Isn't that Li Qingyu? Someone exclaimed, recognizing her as one of the leading contenders for the near-immortal artifact. Several outsider disciples followed Li Qingyu and Qinming into a renowned scholarly pavilion, which specialized in books related to cultivation. Qinming had come hoping to find a secret manual, a crystallization of past masters' wisdom. As they ascended through the layers, the lower floors displayed various extraordinary texts, but none resonated with his spirit, and he was only allowed to flip through a page or two. Finally, on the 6th floor, Qinming spotted a bloodstained black beast hide book that immediately piqued his interest. His instincts told him it was of immense value. Young man, you can look at that book through the crystal case, but that's all, an elderly man seated on the 6th floor said. It's no ordinary text. If you want to buy it, you'll need to bring your elders to negotiate. Even most minor sects couldn't afford it. Qinming realized this secret manual's origins were likely terrifyingly significant. Junior sister Li, you're here too. Looking for any particular books? Several outsider disciples had followed them upstairs, one of them feigning surprise as he greeted her with a smile. Qinming realized he didn't recognize a single person. While there were many outsider disciples present, noble clan scions made up only a small fraction of them. These few were exceptional, with the young man who had spoken earlier subtly taking the lead. His name was Tang Zumi. Though not from a noble clan, his unparalleled talent had made him famous throughout the beyond the mortal realm. His rise had been meteoric, and he was considered one of the frontrunners to claim the legendary artifact being auctioned. Qinming sensed potential trouble brewing. Li Qingyu's exceptional beauty would naturally attract the attention of powerful outsider disciples eager to court her. And this is. As expected, Tang Zumi turned his gaze toward Qinming. He's my cousin, Li Qingyu replied with a smile. Qinming had anticipated a minor complication, but the situation unfolded in a way he hadn't imagined. Brother Li, it's a pleasure to meet you. I feel an instant connection with you, Tang Zumi said warmly, asking what Qinming was looking to buy and offering to help him choose. I'd like to see that ancient tome, Qinming said, pointing to the black book displayed in a crystal case. Tang Zumi recognized the book immediately. His expression turned serious as he said, this is no ordinary item. It's the original edition, extremely famous. Not only is it outrageously expensive, but most people are also wary of its history and dare not purchase it. Does it have a significant history? Qinming asked. Tang Zumi sighed. Of course. This is the Overlord legacy. Over a century ago, the Overlord rose to power through physical mutation, dominating the Black Mist world. He was a renowned powerhouse, wielding the Overlord spear with such skill that few outsiders could withstand a single strike. So that's who it is, Li Qingyu said, finally understanding. Tang Zumi nodded. The Overlord Heavenly Light Force wasn't particularly exceptional, but after breaking through from manifestation to the spirit field realm, he became utterly ferocious. As his cultivation deepened, his indomitable courage shook heaven and earth. The title, Outer Saint, had fallen out of favor, deemed insufficient to truly manifest saintly power and thus ridiculed. The more common term was manifestation. Beyond this realm lay the spirit field realm on the path of awakening. How could someone with unremarkable progress in the first two major realms suddenly surge ahead in the third? Qinming asked, astonished. Tang Zumi replied, do you know how he died? Over a century ago, the Overlord roamed the world unchallenged, living up to his reputation for unparalleled tyrant. He slew an outsider master with his spear, ultimately provoking the master's teacher to personally intervene and kill him. He added in a low voice, the elder who struck the killing blow is none other than Li Qingshu's current master, one of the most renowned figures in the Night Mist world. Qinming realized why so many people were now hesitant about the book. Who would dare purchase a secret manual personally written by the Overlord himself who was killed by such an elder? Still, he suspected handwritten copies might be circulating. Li Qingyu explained, this is the Overlord Last Testament, hastily written while being pursued by the elder. It's incomplete, and its earth-shattering techniques are destined to be lost forever. Qinming's heart raced. He turned to the elder guarding the sixth floor and asked, Senior, may I examine this ancient book? You're not a buyer. Don't touch it, the elder refused. Senior, according to the scholarly pavilion's rules, all books are allowed a trial reading of 1 or 2 pages, Li Qingyu countered. Tang Zumi chimed in, that's right, Senior. My senior brother bought a book here yesterday for a hefty sum. We're returning customers, you should give us some consideration. Seeing this, the other outsider disciples also spoke up in support. The elder sighed in resignation. With so many elite outsider disciples pleading their case, he couldn't refuse. When Qinming touched the beast-hide book, he found he could only open the first page. The rest was sealed with fine golden threads, bound by some special restriction that radiated strange fluctuations. But this was enough for him, even the beast-hide cover would have sufficed. He stilled his mind, maintaining perfect calm, while focusing his spiritual energy to resonate emotionally with the ancient book. Clearly, this volume contained the crystallized essence of the Overlord lifeblood. Both the cover and the first page bore traces of dark bloodstains, likely the Overlord's own blood. An overwhelming surge of emotion flooded Qinming's heart, revealing the Overlord's true power, a force capable of shaking heaven and earth. The Overlord towering figure swung his halberd, stirring the dark clouds into violent turmoil, unleashing a torrential downpour. Qinming also witnessed that the elder who had slain the Overlord had not achieved victory easily. The elder's luminous white palm had been pierced by the spear, spilling radiant blood. The Overlord prowess was indeed astonishing, capable of shaking even the legendary elder who had shaken the Night Mist world. The elder was undeniably terrifying. Standing at a distance, his body trembled as golden runes expanded across his form. With a downward sweep of his hand, he caused one of the Overlord arms to explode. Qinming struggled to maintain his composure, but in the end, his body still trembled slightly. Brother Li, are you alright? Tang Zumi asked, surprised. My cousin was injured a few days ago, but it's nothing serious, Li Qingyu said, steadying Qinming. I'm fine. Qinming recovered, his voice firm. This time, his gains had been immense. He had obtained the complete Overlord legacy and mastered it entirely. You're injured. I have spiritual medicine here, Tang Zumi offered, his concern evident. It's nothing. Touching this ancient book filled me with profound emotion. It felt like crossing a century, and I imagined the Overlord unparalleled grandeur. My blood surged with excitement, as if I were witnessing an ancient grandmaster walking toward me. Qinming sighed, his voice filled with awe. Blank. End of chapter. Subscribe to MTL World at Malworld 1 YouTube channel.